Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into a hidden battlefield. And this isn't some faraway conflict, it's a battle that rages inside every single one of us, right inside our own minds.
You know that feeling, right? A totally neutral thought just pops into your head, and then before you even realize what's happening, your heart is pounding and your mind is just spiraling with anxiety or frustration. How does that happen? Where does that sharp turn actually come from?
Well, the ancient sources we're digging into today, they say it's not random at all. They actually map out this precise internal pathway, and they reveal a hidden spot in our consciousness where our thoughts can get ambushed and totally twisted.
Now, to really get a grip on the battle, we first have to understand what the ideal looks like. So let's start with how a thought is supposed to be born, in its purest, most perfect form.
Okay, so the sources tell us that every pure thought starts with two basic forces. It begins as chokhmah, or wisdom. A good way to think of it is as a father principle. It's not a full idea, not yet. It's just a raw, brilliant flash of insight, the seed of a potential idea. That spark then needs to travel to bina, or understanding. This is the mother principle. She catches that spark, she nurtures it, and she builds it into a complete, structured thought, with all the details and depth.
So, in a perfect world, this is how it works. A thought starts as this pure divine spark. It flows seamlessly from wisdom over to understanding, where it gets developed into something clear and constructive. It's supposed to be this really clean, direct, creative process.
But, it's not always a perfect world inside our heads. Something can get in the way of that pure thought on its journey, and this is where the ambush happens.
So right there, in between that raw spark of Chakma and its development in Bina, there's a hidden battlefield. The sources call it the Masache Hadimayon, which translates to the screens of imagination. And we're not just talking about daydreaming here. This is a powerful, powerful mental filter that can grab a thought and warp it before it's even fully formed.
And here is the trickiest part of this whole thing. As the mystical teachings say, the imagination disguises itself as intellect. This is the real danger. This part of your mind doesn't present its stories as, feelings or wild guesses. No, it dresses them up as cold, hard, rational facts.
So let's break down exactly how this hijack goes down. Step 1. A pure thought spark leaves wisdom. But then, on its way to understanding, the Yetzer Hara, our negative inclination, jumps it. It catches it in these screens of imagination. It then wraps that pure thought in all these layers of fear and doubt and worst-case scenarios. And then this new corrupted thought, disguised as logic, just continues on its merry way. And our intellect accepts it as truth.
So what happens next? Well, once our intellect gets tricked into accepting this distortion as reality, the fallout begins. The problem doesn't just stay up in the mind. It starts to cascade down into our emotional core. And this is a really critical moment. The thought, which we now believe is a totally true and logical assessment of what's going on, travels from the mind down into the heart. The brain is given the green light, and so the heart feels it as absolute reality.
And that feeling is so physical, isn't it? As one commentary puts it, the body of the person is in a storm. This isn't just some abstract mental exercise. It literally creates a physical, emotional tempest right inside of us. I think we've all felt that storm.
And that internal storm, it has very real consequences. We're talking anxiety, anger, fear, sadness, confusion. This is what that hijacked thought creates. That original, pure little spark of insight has been twisted into an emotional weapon, and we've been tricked into turning it on ourselves.
Okay, so far this sounds pretty bad, I know. It almost sounds like we're just puppets in this internal drama. But this is where the whole story pivots, from the problem to the solution. This is your moment of power. Which brings us to the most important question of all. Are we just helpless victims here? Are we just doomed to be hijacked by our own imaginations for the rest of our lives?
And the sources give a powerful, resounding no. Absolutely not. The fact that you're even aware of this mechanism, just understanding that the hijack happens, that's the first step. It activates our most powerful human ability, what the texts call Bahira, which means real, meaningful choice.
The sources really hammer this point home. In every place and at every moment, a person has a measure of choice. What that means is, no matter how deep you are in that emotional storm, no matter how convincing the distortion feels, there is always a little space, a tiny gap where we can pause and choose how to respond instead of just reacting.
So how do we use that choice? How do we fight back? Well, the sources don't just point out the problem. They give us a spiritual technology, a really practical 3-step method to disarm the imagination and take back our inner world. Okay, here's the 3-step method. First up is hashna'ah, or submission. This is about humility. It's simply acknowledging, this anxious thought, this isn't my true self. This is an external voice, or maybe it's a test. Second, havdalah, or separation. Here's where you consciously create distance. Instead of being in the thought, you step back and observe it, like it's a cloud just passing by. You see it, but you are not the cloud. And finally, hamdaka, or sweetening. This is the transformation step. You take the raw energy of that negativity and you ask, what is this here to teach me? You actually transform the struggle itself into fuel for your own growth.
So let's wrap this all up. This is your takeaway toolkit. First, and this is huge, your thoughts are not always reality. Second, remember that your imagination can be a really deceptive filter. Third, emotion almost always follows where your thoughts lead it. And most importantly, you always have a point of choice, which means your awareness is your single greatest weapon.
In the end, this whole battle, it isn't just theoretical stuff. It's happening right now, in this very moment, inside you. So the real question isn't for me, it's for you. What thought, what story that your imagination is telling you? What will you choose to challenge today?